news. Now, let's speak to Seth Schachner. He's a former Sony executive who's worked in film and music, and he's now the managing director of Strat Americas, a business development consultancy, joining us now live from Los Angeles. Thank you for speaking to us here at Al Jazeera. Now, this is a huge acquisition. What triggered it in the first place, and is it likely to change the face of entertainment, Hollywood or cinema even as we know it?
Sure, it's great to be here, Sarah. Look, there's some pretty big forces that have been going on in Hollywood for, really the last 5 to 10 years. And it fundamentally starts around streaming access and the access that consumers have coming from streamers and from, the studio initiatives that stream as well. And it's given just a tremendous amount of liberties to consumers to essentially stream what they want whenever they want. And it kind of runs against the grain of old Hollywood, if you will. And I think the more Netflix has grown, and it's by far and away an industry leader, I think all the studios out here have been kind of on the defensive, kind of defending against it. And part of the strategy has been, let's launch our own streaming services and build our own businesses to go to direct to consumer. But increasingly, as Netflix has become so powerful and Disney has also bulked up, part of the idea has been to the studios to combine forces, basically, so to merge, if you will. And this sort of development came a little bit as a surprise because Netflix does not have a history of acquiring things, and it's a streamer, not a studio. But they made an enormous bid. They put a huge, what's called a breakup fee on the table, $5.8 billion, I think. And I think it, was kind of aligned with what Warner Discovery's board really wanted to do, which was to kind of split itself up into a couple of divisions and try and get as much as they possibly can for the divisions.
Right, and you said that it has come as a surprise, but it needs to be approved first by competition authorities. Is it likely to get the thumbs up, do you think?
That's a really good question. I can't say that right now. I think a couple of the bidders, Comcast, NBC was another bidder, as well as Paramount. But I think Comcast and Netflix, the common thinking out here in LA is that they would get more regulatory scrutiny. The U.S. government has already kind of publicly expressed some skepticism on it. And, the scrutiny can be for anything. It can be for broadcast licenses. But I think the real question here is, does it kind of grow the market? Does it expand the market, if you will? Does it reduce the pool for writers and talent to get paid and compensated? And those are really hard questions right now. So I don't know if it'll get regulatory.
You actually got to my point, which was going to be that you are in LA. What's the reaction you're getting, in terms of who stands to lose from such a gigantic shake-up, rather, especially at a time when the film industry is already facing a lot of changes?
Yeah, I can't speak for all of LA. I am part of the creative and business community here. And I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of worry here. This is just one of the latest ripples. This town has been shaken by mergers, by streaming, by AI, by lots of labor strife. And I think the concern here is that the talent will continue to kind of get hammered. There's going to be one less buyer if you're a writer or an actor, or producer, or director. If Warner's, which is one of our oldest, sort of most critical, most storied studios, goes into big tech, which is essentially what's happening. So I think it's fair to say there's a lot of worrying and concern, more than you're hearing publicly support for it right now.
All right, and one last question to you is, what will this mean, do you think, for diversity on our screens?
I think that there's so much content available globally right now that, one shouldn't worry too much about that, actually. I think you could probably look inside the Warner Discovery and Netflix enterprise and look at what will happen to movie theaters and how many things get released. But I still think, YouTube's out there, which is probably the biggest competitor to Netflix. And there's tons of other streamers globally. So I don't tend to worry about that as much as I do what'll happen to the Hollywood ecosystem, which I think is going to be, more impacted than anything.
Right. Well, certainly a lot more options than when we were younger. Thanks very much, Seth Schachner there.
Great to be here.